"I have killed the Antichrist," yelled the woman as she stabbed him deep in his belly. Less than 2 months later, he was walking around like nothing had happened. This is the story of Grigori Rasputin, a Soviet monk who was a drunken devil to some and a holy healer to others. It's the summer of 1914. Rasputin had returned to his quiet village of Pokrovskoye in the cold edges of Siberia. After lunch one day, Rasputin left his house to reply to a telegram he had received earlier when a woman without a nose suddenly appeared. Her name was Khyonia Guseva. She looked like someone who might have escaped from a mental asylum. She jumped up and plunged her knife deep into Rasputin's abdomen and yelled, "I have killed the Antichrist." His intestines were spilling out. He was bleeding profusely. It was the kind of blow that ends lives in mere minutes. Rasputin, however, did not even fall. He kept stumbling through the streets while she continued to chase him, since her job was not yet finished. Rasputin kept fighting back until a crowd gathered and pulled her away. As for Rasputin, he lay in a hospital for 7 weeks and finally recovered. However, that wound also cracked open something in the public imagination. A man stabbed in the gut, yet didn't die. It sounded like supernatural protection. The incident also invited another question. How did Rasputin even reach this point? To understand why someone would stab him and call him the Antichrist in the first place, let's rewind to where it all started. If you're enjoying this video, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We've got more coming for you. Grigori Rasputin was born into a poor farming family in the village of Pokrovskoye. Life there was harsh and slow. Winters were long, food was scarce, and most families survived through farming or tending animals. For most villagers, the world beyond the Tobol River did not matter. They were born, they lived, and they died in the same little patch of earth. Rasputin, however, was definitely different. At the age of 28, Rasputin made a decision that shocked everyone. He left home on a pilgrimage. For a peasant, walking hundreds of miles to a monastery was extreme. People only did it after visions or breakdowns or some kind of spiritual awakening. Yet here he was. He traveled to the monastery of Verkhoturye and spent months praying, fasting, and learning about life through the esoteric lens. Several years later, in 1905, Rasputin met Tsar Nicholas II and his wife Alexandra. The Tsar described him as a man of God from Tobolsk province. His wife Alexandra was desperate for the health of her son Alexei, who suffered from hemophilia. In the early 1900s, with no modern medicines, no transfusions, no real treatments, hemophilia was a slow-moving death sentence. When Rasputin met the Tsar Nicholas II and Alexandra, they couldn't help being charmed by his aura. They firmly believed that he had the power to heal their son, and that's what happened. Once, when Alexei was almost dying, Alexandra wrote to Rasputin in desperation. He replied, "God has seen your tears and heard your prayers. Do not grieve. The little one will not die." 2 days later, his bleeding stopped. One of the doctors attending Alexei, Dr. S.P. Fedorov, said the recovery was wholly inexplicable from a medical point of view. Describing a scene Dr. Fedorov recounted, Rasputin would come in, walk up to the patient, look at him, and spit. The bleeding would stop in no time. Whispers of Rasputin's drinking, his wandering hands, his unusual behavior, none of it mattered to Alexandra. In her mind, he was chosen by God to protect her son. And a mother's desperation is stronger than any court gossip. He was now given the ceremonial role of lamplighter before icons. By late December 1916, Russia was still locked in World War I. Millions of soldiers had been killed or wounded. Food shortages haunted cities, strikes spread, and resentment against the monarchy deepened with each passing week. Tsar Nicholas II had left the capital to take personal command of the army, a decision that left the government in disarray. In his absence, power shifted to Tsarina Alexandra, and by her side was Rasputin, like always. But to Russia's nobles, his influence looked like poison spreading through the veins of the empire. Policies were suspected to bear his imprint. Out of desperation, the following men decided to finish him. Prince Feli Yusupov, an aristocrat who welcomed the chance to kill Rasputin to restore order to the palace. Grand Duke Dmitry Pavlovich, a cousin of the Tsar and a soldier who feared that the royal family was being blamed when the man responsible was Rasputin. Vladimir Purishkevich, a far-right politician who called Rasputin the evil genius and publicly warned that while Rasputin is alive, we cannot win. They were joined by some soldiers and servants as well. The conspirators led Rasputin into a cellar, a low, dimly lit room beneath the Grand Moika Palace. He was served cakes and wine. Both were laced with poison. They watched closely, expecting his body to go limp. But nothing happened. He did not flinch. Minutes turned into an hour. The poison was not working. Panic set in. One of the nobles grabbed a firearm and shot Rasputin in the chest, tearing apart his liver and kidneys. Anyone else would have bled to death very fast. But this was Rasputin. He did not fall. He stood while blood was staining his shirt. Everybody fled, and Rasputin followed them, staggering into the courtyard, when suddenly Grand Duke Dmitry aimed his pistol at him. The first shot hit Rasputin in the back. He stumbled. Then a final point-blank shot struck his forehead. That is finally when the mystic fell. His body was wrapped in a cloth. They placed it in a vehicle and drove out of the city. In the early hours, they arrived at the bridge over the Malaya Neva. In the frozen river below, they dumped him through a break in the ice, hoping the cold water would claim him and erase their trace. Rasputin's death instantly became the talk of the town. Within a day, an investigation was launched. When two workmen saw blood on the railing of Petrovsky Bridge, the police began searching the area. Finally, Rasputin's body was found under the river ice and sent for autopsy. But the autopsy report got lost. Later, the autopsy surgeon stated that he had found no evidence of poisoning, 3 gunshot wounds, 1 slice wound, and 1 bullet lodged in his body. He was buried at a small church in Tsarskoye Selo. Only the imperial family attended his funeral. Even Rasputin's family was not invited. In 1917, after Tsar Nicholas abdicated the throne, Rasputin's body was exhumed and burned by a group of soldiers on the orders of Alexander Kerensky, who led the very short-lived Russian Republic after the Tsar, to prevent his burial site from becoming a shrine for the loyalists of the old regime.